welcome to the Industry Podcast. We are doing this for the first time today, and basically this entails us talking about interviews, insights, and inside info on the industry, film industry, AV. If you're an industry person, we're talking about you basically. I'm Julian Guevara, and I'm going to be talking about inside info on the show. And here on my right, we have Blake, and he's going to be giving interviews and also giving opportunities for industry people out there. And I'm going to go ahead and give it right over to him. What's going on, Blake?
It is going good.
How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Alrighty, who do we have here today?
Here we have Erica and Jonathan.
Hi.
Hey, y'all.
Thanks for
What's up,
having
guys?
us. Thanks for having
Appreciate it being here.
Thank you guys for being on the episode.
us. Yeah, totally excited. Yes, thanks for having us.
Do you have some questions to start out for us here, Blake? To
For-
ask Erica?
Yes, I do have a question for Erica here.
Okay.
So Erica, you said you kind of wanted to get into the doing everything, kind of like you want to do a little bit of everything. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little more about your future goals?
Yeah, well, future goals would to be a cinematographer, really, like in full spectrum. But my background is acting, so I come from, I studied theater in college, and so I also had a journalist, studied mass communications, television broadcasting, so I know how to do a lot of the video editing because of that. It was kind of a long time ago, so it was actually what you would cut and splice actual film.
Yeah.
Now, it's all digital, so it's much easier to use, right? Mm-hmm. So using Premiere and stuff. So I really usually was in front of the camera for a very long time, but I really am interested now in being behind the camera and all of it, how it...
To help you kind of fully realize projects that you're working on, that you want to work on. Stuff.
Right.
Even if you're in front or behind the camera, you can kind of figure out what both sides are.
Exactly. Because I have been in front of the camera. I know a lot of stuff with the lighting and composition and just, settings and everything. And so now I kind of, because I've been in the business for so long, I would probably say over 20 years. And I worked in Los Angeles, so I was in Hollywood for 9 years. I worked in every studio a lot, worked with amazing directors, amazing actors, actresses, the best
She's
of the best.
kind of a big deal.
No. Oh, you guys are giving me way too much credit. No, but thank you. But I was very blessed to be on set a lot and, to work on the ER series finale, the very last show. And it was just so I've been blessed in a lot of ways, doing commercials to film, TV, all of it. Industrials. I actually did, safety training videos for 10 years. And so that was a lot of stunt work. Throwing me off a building and put out fires and so it was really crazy. So I love it. To me, it's just so interesting and so fun, and I love being creative in every way possible. And it's just I don't know, you just got to express that, right? And then I love making movie magic, as I always say. But so I was more in front of the camera, which I still love, because actually Blake, we shot a video yesterday, which is really, really good, on the boardwalk here in Austin. And it's such a beautiful scenery. It was just, and Jonathan helped as well. He was the rapper. And so we really did a really good collaboration of just this really cool, it was a beautiful song. And we worked with what we could work with, and it came out amazing so far. So, but my future goals is I wanted to create more content of just from short films to full lengths to anything, anything.
You can get your hands on.
Yes, exactly. I just love it. It's my passion. It's my drive. It's my love. It's my everything. If I'm not acting or doing anything with a camera, I'm not living, right? That's literally how I feel. So it's your passion as well, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And so we created some really good stuff yesterday, and we're going to continue on. We have a few more scenes to shoot. It's extremely emotional, but I was.
You're helping out with that?
Yeah, he was the rapper.
Oh.
Yeah, he played the rapper. He's actually the one that presented the song to me. So it's called "She's So Beautiful" by NF, and the words are amazing and very fitting to my life. So it kind of hit home, and they didn't have a video, so we were like, hey, let's try to do our own version of the video and see maybe they might like it or something, and just kind of play around.
And it's gonna be lit.
Oh, it is, yeah. The footage, I've already seen the footage. No, I already seen the footage, and it's amazing already. So it's really cool because this is the first time I got to work with Blake. You know, as you know, he was the camera guy, cinematographer, like everything. And so it was really cool because we had just met recently, and he said, you know, he was heavily into the film business, as I'm trying to now network.
He's a major connector, right?
Oh, good. Yeah.
He's a little facetious about it, but humble.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I managed to get I actually managed to get Julia and Corey connected.
Yeah.
Oh,
Majorly.
nice.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
No kidding.
That's awesome.
He brought
Yeah.
this industry podcast together.
Oh, yeah.
Yay,
Oh, yeah. We got the rock star right here. Woo! Let's go. Let's go.
I know. It's awesome. It's
And-
very cool.
Sorry, you finished with your answer, or can I ask you another
No,
question?
go ahead. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
And so I'm going to ask these questions to both Erica and Jonathan now. So can you, do you guys have any favorite movies you'd like to share with us, and what are some of your favorite TV shows you like to watch?
Go for it, John.
No, really? It's like
Come on,
that?
Julian.
All right. Favorite movies. I mean, you got to put Training Day in there. Let's see. The Wolf of Wall Street. Got to be up there. TV shows. Why don't we go with Dexter? I mean, Erica was in it.
Yeah, I was in,
so.
I was in Dexter. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was in
I have not
of
seen
Dexter.
Dexter actually.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I do, and
It's a lot of killing.
surprising 'cause I
It's a
love
lot of
the
killing.
I love serial killer stuff, and I love that like kind of genre as a whole. So I really should watch it.
Yeah, no, this is a good show. It was really good. But yeah, no, like my favorites have so many. It's kind of hard to really like narrow it down. But I mean, I'm more so about the actors or the actresses that really transform themselves, kind of like Charlize Theron, you know, where she's so beautiful and then she can like gain weight and look like a totally different person. Like, yeah, a monster. I mean, so I like, you know, people that can really transform themselves. So that's more like what I am versus like my favorite movies is this, you know, well, you know, like
It's
from.
like impressive performances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's more where I'm at, you know, because and if it's bad acting, it's hard for me to watch the movie. I have to just turn it off. I'm just like, I cannot, like, and I know.
See, I can kind of let stuff like that go just because I'm into the cheesiness of some
Okay,
movies.
good for you.
But that's
I can't do cheesy. I can't do cheesy.
I'm just like always like, when I watch those movies, I'm really letting myself go here because if I was gonna be critical, I could have a lot
Yeah.
of comments. Like, you know,
Right.
This movie's trash.
Yeah.
I know.
Just pointing it out. Like,
you know, there's heads exploding, so it's okay.
See, that's where I can't deal with.
Like
where
Kill
it's,
Bill
it's
status.
too fake, though.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
over
Right.
the top. Like
I don't know.
yeah, like a lot of people when like you see like when Tarantino squibs and stuff, like when people get shot in his movies, they just
Oh my
it's just
gosh.
like a fountain of blood. It's like
Yeah,
too much.
squirting everything,
Yeah.
like
Too much.
arteries.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so over the top. But see, I mean, he's obviously one of the best, but, and Robert Rodriguez, I actually worked with him too. But it was just, so they're a little outrageous in that sense, but I kind of like more realistic, like, you know, like real stuff, you know, like, I don't know, that to me, when it's like over the top or aliens or sharks, you know, flying and
Takes you out
all
of
that,
the-
like,
the
yeah, I
actual
just,
story.
yeah. And then, you know, being in the business, I look at everything in a technical aspect, which is not as cool because I'd like to be entertained, you know, like everybody would be. Oh, this is entertaining. But to me, I feel more like technical.
You're just like nitpicking
oh yeah,
at it. You're
yeah,
like-
exactly.
You're like, what's
Oh,
going on
no,
here? What
Yeah,
are we-
that
what are-
background
yeah.
guy was really bad, or that lighting did not work, or like, you know, just it's very technical is where I look at movies. So it's kind of good and bad. But
That's why I
yeah.
have to rewatch movies. Like especially if I watch a
Definitely.
movie in a movie theater and I really like the story, I'll have to like go back because I know that there'll be parts like in the movie that I'll be like think about the lighting. Or how did they do this? In the
You're like, you don't
Yeah.
even pay attention to the
Yeah,
scene. You're
you
like,
just
you're just like, what is going on with this lighting?
And then when
Like,
you rewatch
yeah.
it, like by the third time, you're like, I got everything.
Yeah, then you
Like,
get it.
even if I took a bathroom break, I definitely came back for that bathroom break scene.
Right. Yeah.
So
no.
another question I have.
Sure.
How much time do I have left?
All right, keep going. I think
Okay.
we could do like
Tons.
more
You could
questions.
just talk to me, Blake. Talk to me.
Okay.
Give it to me.
So
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite actor or actress that you like?
I mean, really, Charlize Theron. I mean, she's my favorite because she does always transform. I mean, just like Monster, for instance. I mean, she gained all that weight, and I mean, I guess she just looked totally different.
Right.
And even she did a really good job in was it Bombshell? She was the same thing, and that based on a true story as well. But so. She's one of my favorites, really, because she does transform herself. And so even the actors, Matt Damon or, Matthew McConaughey.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, they lose a lot of weight or they gain a lot of weight, which is
Christian
really...
Bale.
Yeah, he's a little over top, though.
Yeah, he goes
I love
overboard.
Christian Bale, but, like, on set, he's a little... Ooh,
See, I was having I think
Yeah.
I heard a conversation about somebody talking about how he got skinny for The Machinist, and that was like
Right.
one of his worst movies.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've actually, maybe if I have seen it, I don't remember watching it, so I can't really.
I actually don't even remember either. So.
I remember that one picture.
Totally
of
watching
him
it
where
tonight,
he's
though.
He's like doing this crooked little thing. And he
Was it American Psycho, though? American Psycho is amazing.
That's top notch.
That was really good. So I mean, he has
I need
his,
to return
he's
to
really
movies.
great, but I've heard difficult on set, but
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know, so I'm not gonna say. It's just what I've heard.
Tom Cruise,
But
little
yeah,
Tom Cruise over there.
a little Tom Cruise-ish, yeah. But yeah,
Going to
there's
space, guys.
there's some divas.
Perfect.
Divos and divas on set, so that's kind of like interesting working because I was working in Hollywood for so long. I got to see all of it, right? So like Tom Hanks was just so easygoing and chill and just like
That's good to hear.
the nicest guy in the world. Like he would, the catering guy, like anybody, he treated them all equally. Like nobody was like below him, or like he was just the nicest guy to work around and
That's
be around.
amazing.
Yeah, and he just was so cool. So I really, there's a lot of divas that it was just like really very particular. Like, oh, I need this certain kind of food, or I need all white sheets in my trailer, and I have to have white flowers and white curtains, and it was just kind of like a little ridiculous. But
Yeah.
so I mean, that's hard with like working with other actors, but it was really cool being there in LA because I got to see it like big time.
Like
Austin's
the
a great
top,
scene.
from the top,
Right,
what they-
yes.
What the industry people do.
Exactly.
Also,
From like the best
all of
crew,
it.
the best, camera equipment, or all equipment, to the best actors, to the best everything. So I was very blessed to have experienced all of that, and that taught me so much. Even if it was like doing like background and very small parts, it was still so beneficial to me in every
How
way.
much insight do you think that gives you on like whenever you're working on a personal project? Like, does that help you a lot? Like planning it out, or like even just shooting it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because I got to see it on a really professional standpoint,
Yeah.
right? So the storyboarding, planning from everything. So yeah, it really did kind of make me a lot like more professional with it versus just hey, let's wing it, let's try this out, this
Yeah.
might work, and which still works sometimes too, improving and all that, it still works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
It's just nice to have that, like when you have the budget, the crew, and all, and just everybody there to do the work all day. Then it just makes it easier because there's not people like, oh, well, I'm gonna come at 3 and late, and then it's like, okay, like
absolutely.
we can get this done, but it's gonna take a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, that's just
Not as
Texas.
organized.
Texas tends to be a little kind of flaky in that sense. So it's like Austin, not so much. I think they're very professional
Yeah.
and handling things, and people will show up. They get booked, and it's very professional here in Austin. So I'm really excited to be back here.
Yeah.
It's been like a year now.
New Hollywood.
Yeah, it is the new Hollywood. So,
Yeah.
and I was here 20 years ago and was doing very well 20 years ago. I was actually working for a casting director, which I learned a lot from just doing that as well. We were just holding auditions all day long. So I got to see every actor so nervous. I mean, freaking out. No,
That's the best.
Like they're sweating and
Yeah.
just like shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, I do that too.
Yeah,
but
and-
then watching that, I learned going like, it's not that serious. It's not a big deal. And then, as an actor, you really want to stand out, right? To get that part, you have to say something different, or you have to just stand out. So that's really important. But yeah, I mean, I try to learn all aspects of the business, from like the filming to the casting to acting to all of it, because I just so love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm just like so like.
Can you go into that more? Like you're saying, like stand out. So like when you're casting, like I mean, everybody has like the same script. Like what's an example you might give that?
I mean, it's your entrance even, right? So the way you walk in, and it's just like, just your little jibber jabber, like, hey, what's going on? How are you guys doing? Like, oh my God, I'm whatever. I had a crazy
Body
night.
movement.
body movements. It's something, or making a
presence.
Yeah. 'Cause
making
it
a
just, like,
funny.
it shows them right away like what you could possibly do with the character.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what I would like. You know, if I was a casting director, what I'd be looking for is like, is this person going to impress me when they walk in, or is it going to be like every other person?
Exactly. Well, you know, I mean, literally watching hundreds of auditions, and it's like, oh, next. But when somebody comes out and they act, you know, just so expressive or different, or like, hey, or flirt with you, or whatever it may be, they stand out, and you remember them. And so that's really like, you know, from the actor standpoint in auditioning, that's really what you want to do. You have to stand out. Like, you have to, each way. I mean, it could be like, you know, they're asking to see, okay, let's, you know, you're slating. I mean, most people don't know about slating, but that's you know, saying that your name and then your agency, and then you do like, you know, peripherals, so they see the way you look and stuff. But just the simplistic of how you even do your peripherals, you know, it's like you turn and you're just like, hey, you know what I mean? So it's like these little things. They're like, oh, that person's cool, and they'll remember you, and then they pass it along, you know, the casting director, obviously, to the producers and everything who actually do the final. Like decisions. And so it's just, you know, it's all learning process, and it really does take a lot of years. They usually say that, you know, it takes 20 years to be a successful actor. Oh, I mean, I'm kind of there, so I'm hoping it'll happen here in Austin. But yeah, you know, I love it though so much. It's really, really cool. I just love being on any kind of set and learning. So yeah.
And especially because like it just shows how much you love your craft.
Oh my God, yeah. Like obsessed with it. Like, yeah. If I'm not acting, I'm like, oh yeah, if I'm not acting or filming or something, I'm not living is how I feel. Like literally, it's that dire, like for me, you know.
No, I got you.
And so one more question I have for you, but so what exactly triggered your interest in working in the film industry? So can you share with us?
Yeah.
Can you share with us on what started your film industry adventure?
Okay, so you guys are gonna laugh, but so it was really theater.
Start out right now.
Because people that know me would laugh and be like, really? So no, I started off as theater when I was young, but I played the Virgin Mary in the Catholic Church as my dad's deacon, and so I played the Virgin Mary, and I did it in English and I did it in Spanish, and I was like, you know, very, very young. But, you know, I could remember lines very easily. I have a photographic memory, so I literally can see a script, and I literally can see every line. So anytime other actors would be like, line, I would even say their line. Like, it's kind of crazy, so I'm cool that way. Blessed in that way as well. But maybe it was God or the Virgin Mary that blessed me. I don't really know. But, yeah, that was my first, like, acting gig, and got standing ovation at church. It got a lot of praise. Like, people were like, oh my God, that was so moving. And it was just, you know, I was a little girl. And that felt so good.
So how old were you?
In elementary school. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can see 4th grade. So I was very young, but I love the excitement of it, you know, like the attention that I got, and just like, oh my God, people were like praising me afterwards. You did so good. And, you know, to me, I was just having fun, you know, pretending. Yeah. And it just continued on, and I just was really into theater. So, you know, high school, even in college, it was my minor, because my parents would let me major in it, because like, what are you going to really do with theater, Erica? Yeah, right. You know, teach it? I'm like, no, okay, I get it. Yeah. So that's why I got my degree in mass communications, television broadcasting. But I still use it with the video editing portion of it, you know, so it's really cool. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it was like playing the Virgin Mary. That's what got me into it. Yeah. And it just felt like that's just what I was meant to do. Like, you know, that was my life purpose, to entertain people one way or another. You know what I mean?
That's
so, yeah.
Cool. Great question, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're right at 20 minutes, so that's that segment.
Okay, cool. Should we film like a little transition where where Blake ends it and then it goes back to me or something? And then like, now we're gonna go to Corey's segment. Insights. Yeah. Okay. You wanna do that? So just I guess just like thank her for coming on, and then say her name.
Address and stuff.
Huh?
Should I say my email address and stuff?
Yeah. So do the call. Then do an outro for her, and then if you want to give like your information, like your Insta or like
your sure, yeah.
Okay, so
Put that up on the screen, so just you don't have to like
verbally say it.
Yeah.
You can just say contact me, and then we'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Because this is recorded.
Cool.
Okay, well, here's the outro from me, Blake Kraft, and I'm here at Paradox Productions. I'm here on 5th Street, and thank you guys. Jonathan and Erica for being here with us.
Pleasure to be here, bro. Appreciate the opportunity.
It was a lot of fun.
And so, if you wanna reach out to me, my email is blakecraft8@gmail.com, and I will do my best and assist in you in whatever you got to do. And if you got a film project going on, bring it here at paradoxproductions.com. We will do our best to make it work. And so now I'm going to switch to Julian.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? That was the interview portion of the Industry Podcast. We are going to switch it over to our insight information segment with Corey. And
that's why we got this podcast called the Industry Podcast, where we talk about the industry. It's a very generic term, the industry, but we try to keep it about nerdy shit because Julian and I were both from the AV world.
Yes, sir.
And we like the term industry. It makes us feel cool. We like the term film, even though we shoot on SD cards, because we feel way cooler when we say film. Like I filmed that.
Hey man,
on my
I've
phone.
shot on film before.
I've shot on film before.
Yeah,
like
then we are both cool.
Yeah.
That makes us cool.
If you're trying to describe like pre-digital film, it's kind of difficult now because it's like I filmed that. Did you film that? No. I pressed record on my smartphone.
See, that would be I shot that. That's like I'm a shooter. That's like if especially music video videographers, they always like, oh, you got to check out this shooter, man. He said he shoots all the best music videos. And I'm like, okay. But
Second
is he a
shooter.
videographer though? Is he a DP? Does he know a camera?
And DP can be used for anything. Anyways, it's the industry.
Other than one camera.
It's the spectrum of industry. It's the highs, it's the lows, it's the pre-digital, it's the post-digital.
Yep.
Post-digital is you just got cameras in your eyes, and you replace your eyes with cameras, and you're constantly live streaming.
Going past Google Glass here.
Me and my good friend Clark, we talk about the pod as like this pipe dream in the distant future. It's like, just take us to the pod, man. And it's just like, it's our just imagined idea that we're trying to conjure into reality, where you just get into this like Matrix style pod. You've seen the Matrix.
Yeah.
You get in this Matrix style pod, and it's just like great headphones, VR, everything, like fleshlight attached to you, and it's over.
And that's how you experience.
And that's just the rest of your life.
That's humanity.
It's like, just take my data, give me free movies.
Well, we might
cool.
as well be. Elon Musk already says we're like 50-50 simulation right here. So
I could see that.
I mean, if I was taking like my experience from when I was younger to now, I would say that this is the more surreal experience. When I was younger, it felt more real. It felt like normal. Now everything's too hectic.
It's a little bit like social media, not to sound like generic or anything, but social media is part of the industry now. It's like taking over what marketing is. Marketing used to be, hand drawn. You hand draw something, you scan it, you print it, and there's your store sign or whatever. Yep. And now it's like the difference between infographics and psychographics, and like demographics is like age, gender, and that's it. Are you a Mary or a fucking sir? And now it's like, what is your deepest dreams? And based on what your deepest fears is, whether you like Tide or what's another laundry detergent? Like the pure one that has.
Yeah, I was like, is it Pure?
Like the lesbian version? Yeah. It's like the pure. Downy, yeah. Tide or Downy. It's like based on like your innermost dreams. Like you might be in the closet or something like that. And that determines whether you like Tide or Downy. And it's wild.
Yeah,
but
the way they can do the guessing too is just it's insane. Like it happens every day on my phone.
And it's like it's easy to be in a bubble, and that's why the pod is like this distant thing, like using our fingers to be to like interact with a phone that's like wants way more data. Like Elon Musk said that. It's like he said something like our output is super low, and he wants that brain link thing, Neuralink, because he just wants the interaction, the data, like extraction from humans to be at a faster frequency.
Yeah.
And what is this like scrolling with our thumbs? We're past
It's not
our
direct.
we're past our primal, like our primate selves, even though it doesn't seem like that. Like
No.
there's
Yeah, I mean,
we
definitely.
had a wrestling we
I
had
feel
a wrestler in the White
disconnected
House.
from technology, definitely, but like there's that integratedness that it's creeping.
Yeah.
It's creeping. I
It's
feel the
creeping up.
wires like slowly just like putting themselves into my skin.
Yeah. Yep.
Up to my neural links in my what is the spinal cord? Sort of was the thing right up at the base of the spine.
Exactly. I wrote like some music lyrics, and this is like an old art project. I wrote some music lyrics and like took this picture, and I'll have to show it to you or like put it right here. I called it Notif Addiction, and it was just about the addiction to the phone and like what does it mean
Yeah.
to like, because it was just it was taking over everything while I was in college. It was just like nobody talked to anybody.
Yeah.
And
It was
we're all
just
20 somethings. Like, why are we not being social?
Yeah, right.
And it was already.
Why do I care about like what I'm posting, or like even if I have posts,
Yeah.
or like what people see, and like, or even if like, especially on multiple platforms, like you'll go from like, I'm going to check Instagram right now. No,
Mm-hmm.
I want to check Facebook. I don't even use Facebook, but I still check it. I don't know why.
Yeah, just get that dopamine rush. That
Feels good.
We still got that sense, like, the things we use the most is what we keep. So I think our
Yeah.
dopamine receptors are going to be massive. Like the next like stage of evolution is
Yeah.
just going to be all about like fun.
Like right now, it's just like almost like if we were drug addicts, like, we got a pretty low tolerance right now, but like,
Yeah.
we're just building that
We are
tolerance.
lightweights to like ring in that bell
Yeah. So
compared to
it's
what
gonna
social
be-
media can honestly output.
Like if you're not connected into the system for like a couple hours into the day, then you're literally gonna like die.
yeah, you're gonna fall apart. Yeah.
My mental state is peeling.
Like, yeah, just the walls are just starting to peel off. You just start hallucinating because you can't like see that in lingerie model's latest post.
Oh,
And like, yeah, I don't know. I
followed
could
her.
talk for years about that, but this is about the industry. This is about everything. Social media, film, AV world. What Julian and I have experience in is like I would call it like the generic, like flavorless AV world, where
Definitely.
it's just bread and butter, screens, projectors,
definitely.
corporate world of CEOs showing up in some corporate room, or not corporate room, but like a hotel ballroom.
Yeah.
And there's like days and days of preparation just to get this dude to talk for an hour.
Yeah, and
And
people
then-
don't realize. People
yeah.
don't realize it. It's really crazy. And like, if you're like ever going to those events, it seems like even when you're leaving, like it seems like that ballroom's just gonna be empty when you leave, and nothing else is gonna happen. But a lot of stuff does happen.
Yeah, and it's incredible that, like, yeah. So we're just moving the curtain away from this world, and things I want to talk about in that world is like, you got some great stories about it, like miking
Oh,
up
yeah.
George Bush, like in between
Yeah.
his painting sessions.
Yes,
He comes out and says some shit about
Yeah.
WMDs, but
We
his
didn't mean to
WMDs
drop
are like his
those.
new energy drink, the WMD.
I just
or
love
something.
painting those soldiers. They got all those memories of me bombing the Iraqis out. But exactly, it's like we have those kind of stories where, like, I've been doing it for or at least before COVID, I was doing it for about 4 years. So you do a lot of shows, and kind of goes by in a blur, but when you look
Yeah.
back at it, you're like, man, those are some crazy like moments, wild times, like interesting coworkers.
Right.
The whole ladder.
And just like, yeah, so you have some memories about that. You have some insights about that. You have some great stories about that. And I'm kind of the nerdy side. That's what I want to
Yes,
talk
sir.
about, and just kind of move the curtains out. And so like, let's put it like this. Let's just bring it back to the top. So like, alphabet soup, like the L8s, the F8s, the FS7s, the A7s, A63, all those.
All
Like
those
I forgot a
confusing
bunch, like
letters
the
with
XRs. What are all these models? What is all this? And like, what is like a bullshit marketing term and what is useful. And typically it's like the tiny print on an AC adapter is like the most useful thing in our profession.
It's like the only thing that you need to look for. Like the only thing you are looking for when you're looking at a cable, or the power supply.
Exactly. So like just to start with a nerdy thing, like XLR, like the mics we're using, like the XLR, it just means power left and right.
Yep.
That's what that means. And yeah, I don't have anything else written down for that. That was just kind of a tangent.
There's fancy ways to wrap XLR. Like if you're an AV guy, you know there's over under. Then basically every like if you're true AV, you would say every other way is not the right way. It's over under. But there's you can be technical with it. You don't want to get cables all tangled up. There's different lengths that you want for XLR cables, and especially things to note, like when you're trying to get longer distances, like you don't want to connect too many, like know how long you're throwing your audio. Like if you have 100 foot, you need to go 100 feet. Is it better to use a 100-foot cable, or is it better to use a bunch of mangled varied distances to get to 100 feet? No, it's better to use the 100-foot cable, guys. This is one cable.
Stretch it all the way out. But not for HDMI cables. You need something called an HDMI booster to go above 70 feet.
Yep.
And if you're at the back of a ballroom or auditorium or like the AT&T Center in San Antonio or something like that, you're going to need an HDMI booster. You're going to need like
SDI converter maybe.
Yeah,
exactly. That was usually pretty popular. It would be you go from the tech booth to out of the video converter, you go to the converter box, HDMI converter box, SDI, all the way to the video projectors, get split. But like that would always be, SDI is always better than HDMI, at least to get the video to a longer location.
Exactly. And so what do you know the acronym for HDMI? It's high definition.
See, I don't know. I don't know the full one. It's high definition.
I think the I is the same, the interface. That standard definition interface is SDI.
Okay.
So HDMI, I'm not sure what the M means. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but
we just know it's high definition.
Just because, that's what when I was growing up, like before, I mean, obviously I used components when I was younger, but like when HDMIs came out, they were a big enough deal that like, it was just take the term, like HDMI, like whatever. I don't know what it means.
Exactly. And also what we want to talk about is, just do deep dives into that. And like some of the fun things we'll do is just like describe, in photography, describe like what type of person would buy a Sony A7, what type of person would buy a Nikon, what type of person owns a Canon.
Yeah.
And I mean, it varies. It's really interesting.
It really does.
And that's like one of the coolest insights about marketing is you can make a water bottle have a blue label instead of a red label, and like a certain personality will buy it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
No,
it's really interesting.
Especially because it's like finding out like what really triggers like small little psychological impulses for people. Like, you know. It's you could go like it's super in depth with it, really. Like it's infinite.
It's infinite. It's like why do I have a pen in my hand? It's like a nervous tick. Well, what do I buy based on
and why would
my
you buy
nervous
that
ticks?
Particular pen for your nervous tick?
Exactly. It can go endless. And we can make it hilarious too.
It has the nice little rubber grip.
Yeah.
It clicks.
Julian has like the clicky rubber grip. That means he likes hentai porn or something.
Yeah, I know.
Ridiculous like that.
Shiny blue pen. I can't go with black.
I just got the business like clear, like office. I got nothing to hide, I really am this lame, like, and he's got like, I'm an artist. I had a show in New York.
Ink is in this pen is what I'm hidden,
It could be levels. Anything.
I'm like a ogre. I'm like an ogre. I'm like an onion layer. You got onion layers. That's what it is. I was like, what's the joke from Shrek? It's ogres are like onions.
Yeah.
I'm like
they
that.
got layers and layers and layers. Yeah. And I think we're way past we want to do 15-minute segments, so we'll make this nice and tight.
Yeah.
But this is our pilot episode, so we get to do whatever we want and just kind of see where it goes.
We want.
Yeah, we got a treatment of what we want, and like you know, from my notes here, it's just like some experience, stuff like that. I've had experience in all aspects: live streaming, audio production. Like my first foray into tech was 17 days on a feature film production in 2014. I was like just a shitty long-haired college kid with a shitty apartment and left for 17 days, no pay.
Oh.
In the sticks of northern Minnesota, and just made it happen somehow
There
with
you go,
a
man.
bunch of Californians that came in and like film, you know, like inner city film students that like were training with Red Dragons and like practical film, and I learned on set, and it was super fun.
And that's what you got to do, especially like in film. You know, there's not always a budget. There's not always like a ton of people that are all in a group that want to do something and they believe in the idea. A lot of the times it's like one person.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, I had this idea.
One person who's like really
passionate.
really
about
passionate,
it.
very task oriented.
They're not going to stop at anything they want to get.
Yeah.
They want to see it through to the end, even if like it ends up being super like bad or not what they expected.
No matter how long it takes or something like that. But
exactly.
So like I'd say like what I love is the tech side, the post-production side, like Premiere Pro, Audition, like all the whole Adobe suite. You know, fuck Adobe, but also it's
right.
great when
we
it
need
works.
you, but we hate you at the same time.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with every editor.
Yeah.
Just having insight into that, just understanding like sequences, understanding encoding, understand like CBR, VBR, constant bitrate, variable bitrate, what that does to the video. What the hell is H.265? What the hell is H.264?
Yeah.
What is MP3?
Yeah.
What has MP3 done to the music world, which is pretty unforgivable?
Yeah, no, it changed it forever. And especially like if you ask people like before
every audio snob ever.
Yeah, every audio snob ever, like how it was before and how they liked it working in the industry, like up until like the internet. They're like, it was way better. It was more professional. Like things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. You know, quote unquote, supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And then the internet came along and they were like, nope, Napster.
I'm going to listen to all of my music in .ogg format.
Yep, it's the best quality. FLAC.
On my $10
AAF.
Chinese earphones. That don't even have like a little piece of like foam padding on the inside. It's just plastic.
Yeah.
And it sounds so tinny.
Yeah, it is like
it's almost a work of art.
It like shake. You hear the shake of the plastic in the headphone. Yeah. Now I use my true Bluetooth wireless headphones. I know I was telling you about that. That's aggravating.
Talk about that.
I don't like how audio, especially listening through like headphones. Like we're wearing Audio Technicas right now, and
M20s. Shout out.
That's probably my preferred method. It's direct. You get the best quality, and it's just like there for you. Like that's how it should be, quote unquote, should be. But nowadays, like they have Bluetooth. I'm sure. When did Bluetooth actually come out? Do you know?
Oh God, that's a good question.
See, like,
it had to have come out with like Sony. So one of Sony's launches of a Blu-ray player.
Yeah, it's like a
PS3
Blu-ray player
era.
Because I remember like when my dad was like when he had always had Blackberries, and like one of the years he got one, it finally had like Bluetooth in it. He was like, I don't even know what it does, like, so you go from like
it was a big deal. It's like what is Bluetooth? Bluetooth is a marketing term for a frequency band of just signals. And Sony was able to patent a certain band of frequencies, and it goes into the term hertz. Like hertz is like single, like 1 to 10 hertz, and that's actual 10 things. But there's megahertz, which is hundreds, and there's gigahertz, which is thousands. And if you know that, like mega and giga means 100 and 1,000 in tech, you can pretty much manage and operate.
Yeah.
A session of anything.
No, for sure. And
you need like a 32 gig card in your soundboard.
Exactly.
And you know how much, it'll tell. Now we're spoiled because it'll tell you how much you have. But that like LCD screens are new to tech.
Yeah, and before then, I mean, like with the old heads out there, like they would be like, oh well, you don't know how much, like how long of a recording you do based on like the equipment you have. It's like yeah man, but it can tell me now.
Exactly. So we're spoiled in that way in the new era. Like, I know I'm part of this like boom operator group. We could probably talk about this in the next episode, but they like figured out how to link their phones, and they mounted their phones to their boom pole so they could see what the DP's seeing.
Whoa.
And like self position themselves and just be totally self-sufficient, which is what an audio guy would do. Was just that's just a reason not to talk to anybody.
Yeah, right.
Like audio guys are great at tech because they go to amazing lengths to not talk to anybody, not even other audio guys. It's like, no, this is like my boom pole is like everything, and like I'm gonna have my mixer, and I'm the best. And MP3 files suck.
Exactly. Like, and whenever I was an operator, like an audio operator for shows, that would always be my like least favorite thing. Like I would always enjoy. Like if they had multiple speakers and like they would have to keep switching out, like say lavaliers, I would always prefer them to just like come up. I would give them a mic and set them up, and they go up, and when they come off, I just take it off of them, and then there's nothing else that needs to be said. They could go back to what they're doing, and I'll just do what I do.
Exactly.
Because it's about focus. Like you really want to be able to focus, and if somebody like if they get off stage and then they start asking you like, so what's the board do here? You're like, I can't tell you right now, man. There's kind of an event going on.
There's a lot of like communication things that you learn on the job to get over it.
Yeah, and especially like when you're, in the field that I was in, I was working a lot of like AV events at hotels, and specifically for my job, I would be stationed at a location, and then I would get hired, or like they wouldn't be get hired, but they would send me to other locations that the company had to work events. So, like, whenever I did that, it was this is like a little bit more like I would be there like for 3 days to operate like a show. So I'd go there, set it up, and then I would operate the show, and then I'd be done with it. But working with the clients, you get like, you have to start out when you're just being courteous, but like as you get on, you figure out like what you could really say to clients, how to talk to them, and like what's appropriate. Cause there's some things that like, a client will want to do, they'll come in, they'll be like, well, what is what's the mic do? Like, they want to be really particular,
and sometimes they're really awkward about it. Like they forgot how to hold a mic. That's an extreme example, but I know what you mean.
And then they just overthink it, or there's people that like, they don't want to think about it at all. So they make it hard for you because you're like, well, can you keep the mic 6 inches away from your mouth? Like, because I'm mixing to your position. And if you have the mic, say, at your chest, like all the way up here, I'm going to have like, set the levels at a certain way.
That's the famous client, talent, whoever's on.
Yeah.
Up here. I stepped away from the mic just now, but right here. Like, hi, hey, how's everybody doing?
Can you guys hear me? And then I'm like boosting their levels to like way more than they should be.
Throwing on gain, low cuts to just do trade-offs.
Exactly. And I'm like hoping that they don't all of a sudden bring it up real quick. So you have to bring the fader down. I mean, you got to be particular, and like they will be particular, but also like sometimes they won't. And it's just all about like learning. Like, you'll figure out what the best way to talk to clients is. And like, you'll get to the point where they'll come up to you and they'll be like, hey, so I'm the next person. And you'll just give them the mic. And then you'll be like, when you come off stage, bring it back to me. And then that's all you talk about. That's all there is. And then you just got to work towards that.
And just keep it as minimal as possible with clients. And so the next part of this segment, it's just Julian.
What's going on?
And I could be here too.
Yes.
And I just do something like this. Hey, Julian, tell us a story from the tech world.
Well,
it could be hilarious, informative.
I was thinking about what kind of story I could tell today, and I think maybe I'll probably just go with the story, the George Bush story.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
That was definitely my kind of towards the end of my time and as an AV technician in general, at least because of COVID. But I was out in LA at the time working for PSAV, and
what does PSAV mean?
Presentation Services Audiovisual.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's
very professional, corporate feeling.
Professional, like
I worked for audio visual resources.
This and this. Yeah, exactly. It isn't like there's other companies that or AV that would have actual like normal company names like Freeman. Like that sounds more of like what does that company do?
Yeah, we had a national audio visual in our city, but bland. Like nobody worked there.
Very bland name. Because a lot of the time with those companies, they don't like. They just have a couple people on call that they can call, and that's all that they want to work with.
Yeah, a couple people they trust, and that's it. Yeah.
And with like PSAV, like I was saying earlier, like I would be stationed at a single property. So when I was out in LA, I was working at the Sheraton and the Universal City.
Yeah.
And that was always really nice because I would go from where I lived in central LA up to Hollywood, or actually past Hollywood over to Universal City. And, it's kind of like the nicer part of LA, I would say.
Yeah. And you're like, I work here.
Yeah, you get to see all the studios, the Warner Brothers towers down over there, and like they're building. At the time, they were building the Jurassic World ride, and they were also starting construction on Mario World, Super Mario World at Universal.
Oh shit! I think that opens like in the summer, right?
It's like really crazy.
I gotta check that out.
I remember when they were doing it, and. Yeah, so starting out there was I was always work either there managing events or I was getting sent out to other properties to operate shows.
Yeah.
And so my boss, he asked me if I wanted to go to the Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica to work an audio show. And he didn't give me a lot of details about it, but I always said yes because that's when I started, I always learned that like
just
if you
say yes.
Yeah, if you say no to like something that you could do for your
especially
boss
in
or
LA,
somebody, then
LA people are like, oh, you said no that one time 37 years ago.
Oh, that means that you can't do audio, man. It's like, what? No,
it's
man.
so true.
So that's why I get a little intimidated, but also like I want to prove that I want to prove that I can be the man. They're like every man, like, if they need me, I'll be there. Like, you guys need me to go to Santa Monica? I'll do that. Even though, I was about to say Santa Monica's not great. At the time, Santa Monica was pretty nice. But did you
know what Santa Monica was?
Yeah, like I had been there and I had actually been to a hotel right next to the Fairmont.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
That one was, what is it called? It's called Beaches. Oh, no. Something on the shore, Beaches on the Shore, something like that. But that's like a really small hotel. And this one is also a really small hotel. So I figured that the event was going to be pretty simple. And he was like, okay, I'm going to give you the information for the director there, or he's going to call you. Then he's going to get your email and everything and get that figured out. And then as soon as he hit me back with an email, he made it very clear that the Secret Service was involved. And and that even though it was for a CEO conference, it was going to be like they're going to have George Bush there as the keynote speaker. So I was like, okay. And now that I'm kind of talking about this, I'm like, I don't know if I don't think I signed an NDA to do this show. But but the process
to do the industry podcast,
not to do the industry, to do that shit, to work the audio for that show. I don't think I'd had to. I think it was actually the Secret Service ended up calling me. And this was like a couple weeks before because he had scheduled me to do it a couple weeks before. So they called me like a week and a half before the show, and they were like, are you Julian? They asked me a bunch of questions like, is this your Social Security? Do you live here? Did you come to LA?
Yeah, they knew all of your history.
They're like, did you come to LA at this time? And I'm like, yes. How did you guys know that? And they're like, we know everything. But
one flight record.
I know, they're like, if we catch anything on your record, you're going down. And like, I had nothing. I had literally done nothing. I was offering them to work.
That's a crazy position to be in.
Yeah, it was really.
It sounds like it started as like, oh yeah, just go to this tiny hotel, and it's just a regular operating gig.
It's gonna be a normal gig, nothing special. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting like calls from the Secret Service, and like asking me about my information. And I got that cleared. They did my background check and they cleared that. And still, I was like waiting to talk to the director about the show. Yeah. Because in the email he had told me that like, this is going to be the name of the conference. It's going to be a CEO conference. They have events going on, or they have meetings going on in several different rooms in the hotel. Yeah. You're going to be in this room, and you're going to be there the first day to set it up. and the second day you're going to be there is to operate it. Third day is going to be another op, and then there was actually the fourth day was another op, and then I was supposed to take the show down.
And it was all probably just Sennheiser.
Yeah, well,
50s.
That one we were using Shure 98s,
Okay.
98s handhelds, and
Okay.
those were like
Wireless or?
Yeah, those were wireless ones, and like it's embarrassing for me because like I felt like I was like really into, like I knew all the different names of the Shure mics because like I
Right.
would use them all the time, and now I'm like I'm trying to remember the name because there's
Yeah.
like the normal ones that are the standard, like for the industry.
Yeah, the most common ones. I think it's a Shure.
The Shure 98s, those are the ones that like everybody
Are those the
uses.
most common?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like Shure 98 for that, and then for shows for like concerts, they'll use Shure 57s.
Oh yeah, 57 is the ones I remember. Yeah.
And so we were using like the wireless, more decked out versions of that, and
I've seen them before. They have little antennas. They look like routers.
Yeah,
That's where you
yeah.
connect them to, and they have a tiny little LCD screen.
They have huge racks that you put in to connect them to the board and stuff, like
Yeah.
as the wireless receivers.
They're pretty reliable too.
No, they really are, and especially if like you're doing like for companies out there that would like come to these hotels, like they sometimes would like come for the first year. They don't really know anything, like they don't know what they want. They're just like, we just wanted somebody to talk, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, well how many people do you have to talk? They're like, well, we're a pretty small conference, so this is one person. Like we only have
Okay.
one person, and then you show them and you rent the gear the first year,
Yeah.
and then they come back with the gear. And you're like, well, we
There you
just
go.
got it because it's a single mic and you guys made it seem easy. So it's like, okay, you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But me personally, I would think that is like the best way for like people to do that. Like, even if I'm at the hotel and I'm like the one setting up the events, if the people come in and say, I just need to like maybe help them plug it in, that makes it a lot easier for me because I don't have to carry the gear to the room. I don't have to go back and forth, especially for me. I would always go back and forth because I'd forget gear, or they'd be like, can we get a clicker like to do the presentations?
And
And
it's
I'd be
like, oh shit, that's
be
like
fuck,
that's
I
in
gotta
the boxes that we stored right by the kitchen.
Yeah, I was like,
Which is
God
like
damn it.
usually the place where you put everything is stored right next to the fucking kitchen
Yeah.
where everybody else is.
It's because it's ease of access. Because like if everybody's in the ballroom and they have something going on,
there's like a whole like. It's like a castle. Like these auditoriums are like castles, and they have
really
like
are.
these back ways where all the peasants go in, and you get the
They can
freight.
split them
You got to
up.
use the freight elevators for all your AV equipment. Like,
yeah,
you feel like great. Like if you're like inspired and interested
Yeah.
about operating, and AV is cool, and
Yeah.
you can. Like if somebody asks about like one person talking and they have no idea what's needed, you're like, I got this. Let me
Exactly.
blow your mind right now.
Yeah.
I can do this.
It's like, let me teach you a little something.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
I've been in that position where people are like, it's after the conference or something like that, and they asking questions, and I'm just in a good mood because it went
Yeah.
great. I'm just like, you know what this is?
Yeah.
It's a Sennheiser.
Yeah, and they're like, what? What's the model?
It's worth $1 billion.
I know, right? Sennheiser is the fanciest name, so it's the fanciest audio.
Sponsor us, Sennheiser.
Please, Audio Technica
Sennheiser, if
too.
you sponsor us, we'll give you a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Please, sponsored by Jack Daniels, by the way.
By the way, Jack Daniels, number 7.
Lucky number 7.
I drink it like water.
That's healthy.
I drink Jack Daniels brand water.
Oh,
Yeah.
filters.
Which they should have.
They do have seltzer. I think they have.
I
hard
think I would
seltzer.
try that. I haven't tried a seltzer,
It
but
tastes
I would
pretty
fuck
good.
with a seltzer.
I fuck with seltzers. They're not bad.
Yeah. I think you were talking about it. Like it gives you like a clean hangover, right?
Yeah, it's because it's like
Or if
IPAs
any
and stuff.
hangover
You
at
just
all.
feel like
Yeah.
weighted down and heavy, and when you wake up, you just feel like there's like a stone on your head.
It's like a sleep. It's
Yeah.
a sleep like assistant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so back to the event that I was working over there. Right before I was starting the event, like I was calling the director like the day
Yeah.
before because I still really hadn't heard too much about what was happening. I had been to the hotel once or twice, but like I hadn't really done that much work there, so I didn't know which room they were even telling me that I was gonna be doing the event. And you were talking about like, you walk into like hotels, usually it's like opulent ceilings and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was very much like my experience here in Texas. Like you walk
Yeah.
into these hotels here, They're all like, you know,
They're all
pretty regal.
really, really fancy.
Yeah, they got high ceilings. You just like feel like small in them. And
Yeah.
over in LA, there was definitely some hotels like that. Some hotels like I can't remember the name. Maybe it was the Westin in downtown over there. They filmed Total Recall in.
Oh, wow.
That one looks like it looks like some kind of space center or something. Like, I don't know, like some
they
kind
really
of weird
kitted it out?
facility. Yeah,
That's
it's like
cool.
got all glass. It's got glass towers, like 4 glass towers, and then one main building.
Whoa.
This building in Santa Monica, the Fairmont, was tiny, and
Okay.
it's like really weird because I've had worked at the Fairmont before.
It's probably an old factory, an old Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution factory that got changed into a Fairmont.
I think it's
They
like
just
some
buried all the bodies in the back
by
and
the
just
bay. They didn't care about it anymore.
Yeah.
They didn't use it since
still
the
have
90s.
the same gear from the 1970s.
The same electrical outlets and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Like they'll update the gear. Some venues will update their gear.
Yeah.
Like the manager will finally like put in and
Shell
go,
out
all
that
right, we got to
100,000.
get like a new case of stuff, and then like the electrical wiring and stuff won't come with it.
Nope.
And it's like you got to plug in to like a loose ass
And
AC
they don't
outlet.
think that the new technology needs like better electric capability than
Yeah.
what was available. Because what always happens is you go to a hotel and you set up a big event, and say there's like truss that you have to fly in the air, and you know the rig. So there's not only are you pulling power for whatever you're putting in the air, but then the riggers are also pulling power for their equipment to put it in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to hotels where like the circuits just blow, and like while they're putting it in the air, it's like
Yeah, so like so what he's talking about is like something called flying projectors. In conference rooms, there's these tiny little grooves, and I don't know how it is described. I guess like train rails, kind of. They kind of look like that.
Yeah, they look kind of because they
look like monorail.
you mount them on trusses. Yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
mount them on trusses, so they're like spaced out evenly to fit the two parallel like rails on them, and then they clamp in there, and then you have this projector hanging from the ceiling, like 20 feet above people's heads.
You just put this little steel plate in between these two rails, and then you bolt that sucker, and then you just go. Then
you fly
that's
a
safe.
10K projector above 50 people's heads and hope it doesn't fall. And so this hotel, like they weren't doing anything fancy like that, like flying stuff. It ended up being like really hectic. So when I called and finally got in touch with the director, he was like, kind of like, oh, we have a team to set it up. Like you're gonna come in and it's gonna be halfway set up, and you just gotta finish it. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Although like the way he was saying it didn't seem like he actually knew what was going on, even though he was the director. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. I walk in there. The first day, they didn't have that much security, Secret Service, because like George Bush wasn't gonna be there that day. But there was all the hotel staff. They were all scrambling around because they were setting up the event. I walked in and met the director for the AV at the hotel, and some of the other staff that they had, the other techs, and they all seemed real cool. And we were going up to the bar. It was a ballroom. This was like a really low ceiling ballroom. So whenever you walked in there, like they were saying that we had to set up these projectors to the screens that they had, and they had the screen set up like my least favorite way, which is like with the legs like 2 feet, and then you have the screen.
Yeah.
And because of the low-lying ceilings, like the screen ends up being like only 7 feet tall, even though it's like a 10
Yeah, it
foot
looks like
wide
the screen is just like sitting down. You never
Yeah.
see this because there's like skirts and things hung over all the legs that make it look nice.
And when the room's dark, you just see the screen.
You just see nothing but the screen. Yeah.
And there was mixed matched cables. Like they had routed stuff from the tech table to the back of the house for the show. And
it was mixed around, and
it was mixed around. Like I was trying to figure out the video switcher, because there was a video guy for the show, but he was coming the next day. Like they wanted me to come there as the audio guy, but they didn't want the video guy there that day, so they had him coming the next day. So I was setting
classic move. To just
they're like, we could just
have one guy set it up one way, another guy set it up
we don't need
another.
to spend that extra money on that guy. And
extra $80.
yeah, right. Especially for how much they pay the actual technicians in comparison to like what the clients are paying the technicians. Because that's one thing in the industry is like you'll be sitting in a room to operate, like I'll be sitting in a room to operate George Bush and this other dude for a CEO conference. The company's making $80 an hour. You know, how much am I making? For that company, nothing.
You're just a volunteer.
Just my hourly.
You're just really happy to be there.
Yeah, I mean,
make you volunteer.
That was like the biggest thing about it. Like, some audio technicians that I'd met before, like they would be freelancers on the side too. So like they would be like, oh, well, dude, I get paid like $20 an hour to do this, or like this much, or I'm on this tour right now, and I would just pick this up as a side gig, and I'm getting paid $35 an hour to do the thing. And you're like, oh man, that sounds cool. But at the time, I didn't work in hotels, and I didn't like know how to set up all this stuff. So
it's a learning experience typically all the time.
That my boss, when he first hired me, didn't even think that I was like, he thought that I was 29 with kids and I was 19 with no kids and just semi-college.
and the shine of Hollywood was still in your eyes.
Exactly. And so, the show was seemingly starting out a mess. I had to reroute a bunch of stuff. They were having me, like, I was supposed to focus on the audio for my room. Yeah. But they were having problems routing the audio for the, what do you call it? There was a secondary room that people were supposed to watch, an overflow room. That's what it is.
Oh, gotcha.
For people that couldn't be inside the main room, there was an overflow room. And they were having trouble, like, getting the audio over there. And I was having to like getting pulled back and forth working on my room's audio and getting that done, and then like doing the rest of the overflow room and helping the other guys out. And so a really hectic first day, but we got it set up. There was a few things that I knew I was gonna have to like come back in the morning and tweak, like I was gonna have to reset the mic levels and all that.
That's an AV tech's like mood. That's a mood we have. It's like just next morning, I'll remember to like plug this cord in that I forgot or whatever.
And especially because like when I worked here in town, a specific location, like a locked location.
And you worked here before you went to Hollywood.
Before I went to LA. So, and that was for, I want to say 2.5 years, or maybe close to, maybe it was just like 2 years. But I was like going out there to like, I forgot what I was saying. Right there.
Don't worry.
What was I saying?
You're on the Hollywood, and you just put everything on Future Julian.
Oh yeah.
The next morning.
So yeah, I put all that stuff.
And George Bush didn't ask you any questions about your AV mastery.
No,
you were really
didn't.
Disappointed.
I didn't. I was expecting to get to meet him and like give him a mic or something. Like I did like run around with a mic and like put it on his chair, and like he was over in back of house, but he was surrounded by like Secret Service and like even when I was before the show, like in the morning I was also like scrambling around getting everything fixed up. Got everything fixed up like about a couple hours before the show was about to go down, and like an hour before the rehearsal. So we do the rehearsal without Mr. Bush, Mr. Bush, without George Bush.
Mr. Former President.
And it ended up going well. The CEO was happy. They had a coordinator for the event, like a kind of a PM like a project manager for the company that was handling their events. So like he was real high strung, but like I said, like you kind of learn to like deal with people like that. If they're freaking out about a bunch of stuff, like that doesn't necessarily mean that like it's something that you have to freak out about or like it even involves you, like So, like getting to the actual show, I was like especially when I would do any kind of audio or video for a show, like live, you have to do it. Like, you have to be particular. You have to like keep your nerves to a certain point. Like you got to be cautious and make sure that you're like
streaming is and like in the AV world, you can essentially stream to the screen and get like you'll get reactions right there in the room. Like if you're live switching for a room of like 500 people, and you don't have to be live streaming online. You could just be controlling live switching the video to the front of the room on the screens. And that could be really intense.
Because and especially because when you do a rehearsal, like for this rehearsal, it was pretty light.
Oh, so there was a rehearsal. There was a run through.
So there was a run through. There was a run through before the show with the CEO and the PM and a couple other people, a couple of the speakers, so they can test their mic levels.
Did everything work out?
Everything went pretty well in the rehearsal. And the one thing that I always just don't like is when they don't have everybody come in through the rehearsal, because like one, maybe they're like, oh, I have the last minute content that I have to do at my hotel room, and then when I come for my event or for my portion of the event, I'll bring my laptop and my stuff then. And you're like, wow, okay, thanks for being super last minute, even though like I'm sure you were supposed to be like,
it's like a separate channel.
This. Yeah,
like step by step, what that entails is like you need a separate channel. You need to test the levels while people are sitting around waiting. For you to come up, and it's like maybe the morning of you'll test it.
Yeah, if you have it, and that's like. Because that's like even for presentations like for these people, they had a few videos that they wanted to play before, and then they had like just a lock title screen for like a locked logo screen for the ad during the show.
Okay, yeah, so they have something just floating.
And that had,
could have been emailed,
name.
But he wants his laptop. Could have been just a picture emailed.
But he had to have it.
But he doesn't really understand that like all computers kind of work the same.
Yeah.
And no, his laptop has a picture, so he knows that works, and he doesn't trust that anything else works.
I can't send it to your email; it's going to take too long.
Yeah.
And it's
going to take too long.
There is stuff that you want to be mindful of, because you'll like we were saying, like the directness of like equipment that you're using, like being able to plug a line in is like awesome because it's direct, like, and the same thing with like if somebody has content for you, if they have it on a SD card or a thumb drive, perfect, plug right in, and then I have it. If they're like, oh, I could share it to you on Google Drive, it's like, well, thanks for telling me that. Like, we'll see if it downloads in time. Like,
Google Drive is kind of improved, but I do remember a time where you would get a link to Google Drive, and then you would have to email again for permission.
Yeah,
and nobody really understood. And I don't think anybody still understands Google Drive. Maybe people in Austin do because it's a techie city.
Yeah, that's true. We have Google here.
And that's a big part of it. And also, like, you could just share a link and it works now. And it's just like you can do literally, you get a link and you can do anything with it. And it's like a great hosting.
That's why I like using Dropbox for that, because like a lot of time, like if you send the link, then they can watch it. You know what I mean? I've had problems where, like, recently I sent something to someone and I don't know, it seemed like Dropbox only showed them a preview, because it only showed them like I sent an hour and a half clip, and then it said like
it showed a preview.
They told me that they could only see an hour of it. So I was like, okay, well, I have no idea what
that's like is. The next gate of like trying to teach people is like, I just sent you like a 5 gigabit video that's going to take a little while to process.
Exactly,
like Google Drive needs a process, or OneDrive might preview like a first section of it that is processed. When you stream something like to YouTube, you can't download your video that you streamed right away, because it's got to process your video. Yeah, it's got to encode in the back end.
Yeah, I'm always hoping that they get faster at it, but like, it's time. That's like a big thing about the industry. Any industry person knows, like, it's all time. Like, there's also, there's deadlines, and so that you have to meet, especially if you're an AV guy. Like for this show, I was doing all this stuff to make sure that everything was fixed and ready to go, so that by rehearsal the next morning, we were able to like do a rehearsal. Because if I had just walked in, I was like, oh, everything will be fine. Then walked in the next morning, like we would have had to push the rehearsal back. And then like the rehearsal would have been only like 2 hours before the event.
And the Secret Service would tackle you to the ground for being late.
Maybe George Bush himself would.
Paint you a middle finger.
Yeah. It's especially with like George Bush. Like I had never really like done a like somebody, I guess, like to that level, like a speaker. Like he was a former president. That's pretty.
Yeah. What was like the highlight of that event? Besides Bush, like what was some of the fun things that happened? Like they
had a couple people that were entrepreneurs that would come, that they came and instead of just telling them their story, like like every single conference, they'll have somebody that comes in. They're like, just come in and tell your story. That'll be your meeting, and like just run it through it, and people like can talk to you after Q&A after. Yeah. But this one, the people were kind of doing it was like interactive. I can't remember exactly what they were doing. It was interactive, working with the audience to kind of show them how to work with the team, because they were supposed to be the CEOs. Like, it was an entrepreneurship CEO conference, but this specific conference meeting was for CEOs. So,
gotcha.
And that's why they had George Bush, because he is apparently like, major businessman. He can run the United States. He can run.
He pulled himself up by his own bootstraps and became president.
Became president for you and me.
Yeah.
And so that was probably my highlight, because you don't see typically that kind of level of interaction.
He started his presidency in his garage.
Yeah.
Ran his campaign out of his garage.
I have a great idea. For the highlight for George Bush, like as the main conference, would probably be like, he did this weird thing where when you're teching a show too. Just so I give you like a little insight.
Yeah.
You're like always monitoring the board, maybe a little bit more than you're actually paying attention to what people are saying. So you're really just kind of honing in on like did I just hear them like kind of whisper, or like am I hearing them
Don't clip?
Yeah, it's like where are the audio levels at? And so I was like, for George, I mean, he was really kind of what's the word, like static, or he was like flat. He just talked like this the whole time. I'm George Bush.
Oh, it was like very groggy
here. Yeah, like his voice, his audio level didn't change. It didn't fluctuate at all. So like you didn't have to really ride his level. CEO, he was a little bit more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
But like during his talk, like he was just kind of going off about like not anything that had to do with being a CEO, I would say, like, because the CEO who ran the company, he was trying to ask him about like, well, like when you were running for president, like how did you manage your like campaign and this and that, and then he would start talking about it, like he'd be like, well, back in then, like me versus who was Gore, like we did this and this.
Me versus Gore.
Yeah, it was like
he was an environmentalist.
Gore. Yeah,
some
such. It was super easy. He was a softie. But
his name was something Gore. I don't recall.
He's getting into it, and like you getting a little bit of description, but then he would like go off on a tangent where like he'd be like, yeah, and then I started painting, and it was.
I love that he references painting.
It was when he actually did it. It was he was talking about. It was right after he was talking about the day, because he, for some reason, the host asked him about like the morning of 9/11. He was he was like, how was that, and how did like you deal with that? As
he's trying to get them ratings up.
Yeah, maybe like I guess to
his
like
rating
the
up
audience,
to the 50. Like, how many people was it?
It was like 150 people.
All right.
I mean, it wasn't a huge.
He's trying to get 150 likes on his LinkedIn page.
Yeah. And he was asking him questions like that, and like he would start talking about like it kind of odd, because he was like, oh well, I was reading the book in the room, and like talking to the kids, and then somebody came and whispered in my ear. In that moment, I knew it was drastic times, and I needed to come for drastic.
He had like a famous Bush quote right there.
Yeah,
I knew this was desperate times, desperate measures.
Yeah, very presidential. He was like, I knew America had changed, or something like that, which is really dramatic. And you're like listening to it.
I bet it is, yeah.
Yeah, the audience was like, wow, okay, like we're getting the inside scoop on 9/11 here.
Yeah.
And then like right after that, he was like, and working as a president, you just have a lot of tough decisions. It's a lot really different, because now I just go back to the ranch and I paint. And then he started talking about painting for a long time.
Right. Now you want to get your acrylics out first.
Yeah, and thankfully I didn't. Like I'm not gonna say like I'm the most pro audio technician out there. Like I try my best, and like I'm always at that
like
time. I would say I was always learning.
0 to 10, like where would you say you are in AV tech and know-how? Like compare it to people you worked with that have been really impressive.
I'll compare it to like one of the most techie guys that I worked with, who who would literally like take apart speakers and try to fix them, like I wouldn't be that kind of level.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't take apart speakers and try to fix them.
Maybe like
but,
a 7, 8, because 9 and 10 is taking apart speakers.
Yeah, I would
like
probably
9 and 10
say
is
like a solid 7 because like if
splicing wires, like it gets into electrician type
exactly
stuff.
and you have to know a lot more than just about like what you're doing. Because like what I like about AV in general is you come in with an event, like you have a set like project that you're working on, like they have 2 screens. That means you have 2 projectors, and then you're gonna have to do 4 mics and like maybe a live band too. And then so from that you kind of just like figure out what's all the equipment that I need for that.
Kit it out.
Yeah, like how many people do I need to set up each part of each aspect of the show? Like who needs to set up the audio? Who needs to set up the video? Who needs to set up like the actual projectors? Who needs to actually set up the screen? Like that's not very fun, but usually you have to like go up to one of your coworkers and be like, "Hey man, you want to tackle this screen real quick?" And they're like,
you need a second person. These screens are like
you do.
9.
I've tackled a 7x14. Set it up by myself. You're not supposed to, and especially
doesn't go up to like a 20.
OSHA wouldn't like that.
Doesn't it go up to like a 10? It escapes from a 9x24.
I've done huge screens. Okay, I mean,
me too.
Nowadays, a lot of people will they'll prefer to try to do like a LED wall or a video wall instead of a screen. That's that big. But if it's like if it's like 2 or a big ballroom and they're trying to fill it with 2 screens, it's gonna be a 10x18.
And you got to screw the legs with these like crank bolts.
Yeah, with the cranks, and then you
crank
have to
them in.
Get 2 people to lift both sides up. It's not heavy, but like it just needs to go all the way up in the air. And then once you have it in, you bring the legs back down, crank it in, make sure it's locked.
I worked for an older AV tech, and I wouldn't say he was cheap, but like he would call me in just to stand up the screen because he needed a second person, and then it was pretty much over for that point.
That's how a lot of AV technicians. Like
the higher skill, like especially like he had his own company and like he did everything. Exactly. And it was incredible. It was just one of those AV gods.
I feel as an AV technicin, like whenever I was,
you operated, so you were all aspects.
And if you're like, even if I didn't operate, like I would say like. When you're at a property and like you're like, this is my property, like I work at the AT&T Conference Center. That's where I originally started working, over on UT campus.
You know where things are stored. You know where.
Yeah, you're like this closet has this equipment. This closet has this equipment. Like you just kind of get into that flow, and then like. Especially because if you're full time, if you're full time working for a company at a location, then you're there like all day, and especially to set up a show, like I would do a show, opera show that I didn't set up, say, in the afternoon, say like around 4, and then around 8 the show would finish. And then I get maybe an hour break, but then my boss says, "Oh, well, we have a ballroom show tomorrow morning at 7:00. It needs to get set up tonight, and then you're operating it tomorrow." And you're like, "Oh, what am I operating?" And they're like, "You're the audio, man." And you're like, "Fuck." And then you have to figure out, like, okay, well, I'll go down to the cafeteria, I'll get some food, come back up. We'll see how many people we have, because a lot of the times, like. There'll be staff or technicians there for shows just for the show, or there'll be technicians there they'll be like, "Oh, I'm the video op, but like, I'm trying to just be the video op," and you're like, "Nah, man, you're supposed to, you're scheduled to be here to, you're scheduled to be here to
no, you're not putting this on me."
Yeah, like that was a big thing, and like what I didn't like about a lot of audio technicians, like is. Not audio technicians, just AV people in general, some of them, they think they get too locked in their ways. They're like, man, I don't set it up. Audio. Yeah, I don't set up the speakers. I'm just gonna set up the board over here. You can run the lines.
Not much team player type of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude. Like if you're the audio technician and you come in and you expect somebody else to set up the audio for you, then like I feel personally like that's not doing it right. Like I would want to make sure that I know where the speakers are set in the room. Like I would pick where the speakers are set. I would run the video cables myself. Yeah. And a lot of times, because like I've been talking about operating audio a lot, but like most of the things that I would do, like most of the shows that I would do would be actually like operating video switchers. So like you kind of go back and forth, but like, yeah, you can't be too, you can't like get too like lost in like setting it up, like, you know, you got to like figure it, especially like with that scenario, like if I was doing a show, like, you know, I'm focused in on that, and then right afterwards I'm supposed to go and like, you know, set up another one. The flip is real quick, but like I would always be quick, like kind of like, okay, well, change my mind real quick and be like, okay, now I'm just gonna have to figure out like how to set this up with 2 people, and like we're it's like, and we have to run the like digital snakes. We have to run like digital video, like, you know, from front to the back of the room. And sometimes it makes it easy depending on like your location. I worked at hotels that would be really easy to set up rooms because you would just have to plug in the HDMI.
Yeah, some venues have just plugins right into the wall.
Yeah, you just plug it right into the wall, and then like even the audio you could just plug into the wall, and then,
or like built-in projectors that just stay there. And
that's the best. Or even projectors.
Those are those are cush.
You work in classrooms where like you just walk in, there's like a panel, you just like tap it a little bit, and then like all the projectors turn
like how you
on.
You went George Bush there.
Yeah,
let's go tap this little panel
tap
here
it a little bit. 9/11.
I'm gonna go paint later after this show.
I have so many.
And you're an artist, so you would actually go paint later. You're basically you live in George Bush's life.
I know. I wish I could be on the ranch right
vicariously,
now. And
let's just name the studio the ranch. So with all this operating, you were working full time.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Just generally speaking, did you learn a lot?
Yes.
With every job and
yes,
lots
I did.
of insights.
And especially like, I mean, like some shows, like some days that I would go into work, like would be like, oh, there's a bunch of different classrooms that are all doing like, you know, just kind of small things. Like, you know, they're just, it's just a teacher with their students, and, you know, you just got to set up an HDMI or something. But like, even just doing that, like you go into the room, and then like, you know, all of a sudden they'll just like have random problems. And so it turns into like a troubleshooting day where you're going to every room and you can keep getting radio calls from people, and they're like, hey, can you go back to room 108? They have people over there that are having trouble with the audio. Then you go in there, and you know,
like
even if it's a really quick fix, if you know exactly what you need to do, you walk in there and you touch it, like you're still kind of like thinking about new aspects of like, okay, well, like, did I put the mixer in the right place in the room so that I can just walk in there and change it? Or like, did I tape when you walk in there, you're like, did I tape those lines down right? Like when I walk into the room, does it look clean to me? So that like when a random person like who doesn't really know anything about tape lines, like, you know, when they come in, does that look clean to them? Like, or does it look like there's weird tape lines everywhere?
And that's what we want to.
I've taped my fair share of weird tape lines, but like, you know, it's about like learning from it. Like, you know, you get better at it all the time.
I remember I was at this event. I wasn't teching it, but it was just a venue that is very rarely used for AV stuff, and there was just a line coming down from the second floor, and I think it was the projector or something plugged in upstairs.
Yeah.
And it was just hanging down like near where people were sitting. It was like. It was cringy to sit there because I wanted to fix it, but I wasn't working there. I wasn't associated. It was just like I think it was like some kind of Olympic runner.
See,
and he had a great speech.
and you're like, please, I'm so close. If I could just fix it right now, it'll be done.
It's a safety hazard.
Yeah, and
calling OSHA.
yeah, I'm calling OSHA right now. And when I was at the Fairmont, I mean, like, you know, that you kind of think about that stuff all the time. Like, did I go in there and start thinking of like all these different things that I would have done differently to set up the event so somebody like me doesn't come in and feel the same way that I'm feeling right now? Yeah. Like, of course, I'm always like,
you're such a team player with just making things work. And also because like it's going to be future Julian that's coming in, so you got to make it work for. You know, coming in the morning, later, making everything easy, and you probably make your own labels for all the chords that you don't own. And it's like
sometimes you'll spend late nights, man. Like, you know, like I especially when I was here working in Austin, like I would work like a show in the evening, and like that always guarantees that you're going to be there at least till maybe midnight at the very earliest, and then the latest you get out is like, you know, maybe 2 to 4. It's like, you know, and that's not even like oh, they scheduled me till 4. It's like No, this
Things
equipment,
are
piece
put
of
away.
equipment fucked up, and like we had to get a new one in, and then we had to set it up like once we got it because we couldn't do the setup until we got that piece of equipment. So like, and like, it's just kind of you kind of got to go with a flow on that.
Yeah.
But if you like what you're doing, especially production stuff, then you'll feel satisfied once you actually do the event. Because like once I finished that Santa Monica event, like I was definitely like a little like laughing at myself. Like I really just operated a show for George Bush. Like the Secret Service called me.
Did you call your mom afterwards? Like
I texted my parents and told them that I had done it, but like I wasn't like, Mom, George Bush, because I don't know if she was like the biggest
check
fan
out George Bush on YouTube tonight.
Yeah, all right.
He sounds great. You know why?
I wonder if I can find that video from the conference.
I bet it's like
it's
streamed on
somewhere.
YouTube.
It's somewhere because we recorded it.
Corporate companies tend to think that streaming on YouTube is just like that's all the marketing department has to do.
Yeah, well,
and it's great because I mean you're really putting your master's degree in communication to work, being in the position of a corporate marketing job,
fully
and then you're
fleshing it out, just like
you're making
flexing.
the AV guy stream to YouTube, and
and it's like even when people are streaming, like when I was in AV and like starting, a lot of people didn't stream. Like when you go to conferences, like it wasn't that popular.
It's local live switching.
Yeah, and that was like, and if they wanted it like if they wanted it after, you would have to record it. Like you'd get like a recorder and an audio and a video recorder, and you give them those files. But like, oh fuck, what was I talking about again?
After the Santa Monica podcast,
so
and
after I
think we're about running out of memory over there. Just a thing went off in my head. I think we're low.
We're pushing it on the pilot episode here, but we're getting deep.
I like the looseness.
Yeah,
this is a vibe establishing episode.
Definitely, and especially
we can talk as long as we want.
We just got to figure out like what we're what like we want to talk about like first like that involves the industry, because like. Yeah, you got to figure out what people want to talk, like what people would find interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this stuff's really boring. Like, I'm talking about like staying at a hotel conference ballroom.
But saying cool
like
shit like saying cool shit like run the lines sounds really cool.
Yeah.
But really you just fucking with cords, fucking with wires. But you said run the lines earlier, and I was like, that's
exactly.
cool. That's cool.
It's like the same kind of terms with film.
Riding the faders.
Riding the faders. Yep, that's one too. I'm trying to think.
Live
of like
switching, what's that?
What's the throw of that projector?
Broadcasting. But it's just to 0 people on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
But no, fuck that. We're broadcasting. We are. We're at the forefront of technology right now.
Just what Joe Rogan's doing, or Joe Rogan, anybody like who does a show, the people that do like I've worked with companies that did like TLC shows, and across the spectrum, like no matter who you're working for, the level of equipment will be better, expertise and experience will be better, but like
I think AV, the attitude towards AV is generally speaking the same. Mm-hmm. Like the gears put away in the back. If it works, don't fix it type of stuff. And that's what I want to talk about. And just like, it's up to us, like a little bit to make it interesting, to make it approachable, to make it accessible. Cause I know I learned by just watching people really good at their jobs who didn't want to talk to anybody. I just kind of learned what they did. Yeah. And then when I applied for audiovisual resources, I just kind of stitched together what I knew.
Yeah. Based on like that experience.
Yeah. And you use buzzwords like live switching and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you just kind of roll with it. And it's a lot of when I came to Austin, I wanted to get into the tech world. Mm-hmm. I just went on to one of the forums, one of the message board groups on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I want to get into the tech world. I can rap an XLR record really like the best of them. Yeah. And I immediately got a message.
That's crazy.
It's like, that they just need warm bodies for the most part. And then you just you just enter in from there, and it's like you just get to run the lines, man. Yeah, You're not a chord monkey. You get to run the lines.
You don't have to be.
I love that.
You don't have to be a full like techie either. I mean, I've been doing.
You can sit at the AV bench if you want to.
Yeah, you definitely can. Like I've gone to, especially like just a quick little what is the comparison? I worked at PSAV for oh man, I can't even think of it. Like it was at least 3 years. It was at least 3 years I worked for them. And after that, I came back from California and I didn't like immediately get a job back with PSAV, and then I didn't like start reaching. I didn't really apply to a ton of other AV companies because I was a little questioning about whether or not I wanted to do more events like at random locations. Like I'm down to do an event wherever. Or do I want to do these hotel events?
Yeah.
Like, like it's very different atmospheres.
So what branched you off into? Because you run the studio.
Yeah.
Like Julian's the leader of this studio. Everything you see, everything that you see on the table, all the sponsorships, all the cool shit.
Yo.
The reason the Jack Daniels bottles are empty.
Yeah, I
No,
know,
I'm just
right?
kidding. That's cancelable.
Late nights.
Yeah, late nights in the studio. Peyton.
Too much.
Peyton in the studio. I'm gonna get it. We're gonna master our George Bush impressions by the end of this.
I swear. I just need Laura.
I'm no good with computers. Laura does all that.
Where's the mic? I want to talk. If he had said that to me, man, I would have been so happy. It's like, hey, where that mic at?
Thanks, Julian.
I would have been like, hey,
I'm
Mr.
gonna
Bush,
paint
I'm from
you something
Texas
later.
too. I'm from Texas too.
You wanted to tell him that. You really wanted to
It
tell
would have
him.
been funny because I mean, like, I don't know. I was fucking no years old when George Bush was president, so like, I even if I had
Same.
an opinion, it's like whatever. But meeting him in person, like, it's just hilarious. Like, it's like this is and especially in comparison to like all the other famous people I had done shows for at that point, or like big companies I'd done shows for.
Yeah.
Like. This was definitely the most intimidating just because he was like a former president.
Yeah,
like,
there was Secret Service
and there
that
was Secret Service that
were
called
ready
me,
to tackle you.
background checks. Yeah, if I messed up his audio,
any sudden movements. Yeah.
I did. I will say
it messed
I
up
did,
his audio.
I did. I didn't mess up his audio, but like at the end of that meeting, they had it was just him and the CEO on stage during the meeting. But after the meeting, they had I guess he was just like the host or like the person that was moving the show along.
Right.
And he came out, and the CEO was about to, like, when in the run through, they told me like whenever somebody's about to leave the stage, mute their mic. Like even if they're not off the stage, mute their mic because that's how they wanted it to go.
Right, yeah.
They're like they're not going to talk afterwards, so don't even bother. Like just mute their mic.
Yeah,
so
you mentioned this story. Yeah.
Yeah, mute his mic, and then he like turns around to say something to the host, or like it's just like I don't know what he was trying to do really, but he tried to say something, and then like afterwards they said something.
He was just
about
trying
that.
to climb the corporate ladder. That's what any effort
He was
is
trying
in
to
corporate
go to
America.
George Bush's ranch,
Yeah.
and,
he was going to yell, "I like painting,"
he was very
and you muted
very
it.
upset.
You ruined his opportunity to tell George Bush he's from Texas and he's like painting too.
I could tell too that like I mean I didn't stop operating the show, but like I could tell that they like were a little upset. They're like, oh, the next day they're like, everything gonna be good? I'm like, yeah, of course.
Just because you muted a little thing, just like a little.
But that's
after they were done talking, and it was just like the look back and say something, and you were precise. You were on the right timing.
Because it's even like if you're doing like the stuff that we're doing here, like you're doing a podcast. And like you're sitting down here on a Wednesday or Thursday we're sitting down in your home on a whatever day, a weekday.
It's whatever day
you
want.
I plan to do this podcast. I wrote it out. Like I'm gonna record it right now.
Yeah.
You record it. You get it onto an SD card. You think you put it into the computer. You think, and you put it into the program that you're gonna edit it. You think, and then all of a sudden it's not like you get half of the project, or like something's corrupted, or maybe you didn't even record it, and then you're like surprised afterwards. Like you can't let like that kind of stuff deter you. And like if I did live show, if I was gonna like be like that, then I would have never kept doing live shows because every single time I did a video switch. Like, maybe the first one that I did every show was not on cue, like perfectly on cue how I wanted it.
You adapted to it though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, and you can't like you can't like worry yourself too much about that stuff because if you're trying to be professional and you want to do it for real, then you're gonna do it every time.
Just keep doing it better.
Exactly, you're gonna keep doing it.
Live switching is a great teacher.
It really
to
is.
Perform well.
If you want to do,
it's not
really
a comment
good,
section. It's people that you can feel hating you more.
You, dude. And
you're one guy.
Look at you, because if you're in, like, if you don't know
directly
where the tech
behind
table
them,
would be, you would be right in front of their eyes. So they will stare at you, and they'll give you hand motions to bring the lights down.
There's like a tier system to it. Like depending on their anger level is how far they turn behind themselves. Like if somebody just got is in the middle of a shitty divorce, they will turn all the way behind. And look right at you like, what the fuck was that, man?
Exactly.
But like other people, like,
I haven't had wine yet.
There's a whole tier thing to it, like communicatively, like in the audience, like if something's going kind of weird, that they'll do the half turn, and it's for you. You'll just see it.
Even especially because like a lot of the time if you have a tech table and you're just one of many people operating the show. And you're working with like PM from the company, like if the person the client that you're working with has like a project manager, those people are behind your neck and like.
Are they at the AV table?
They're going to be at the AV table. Okay. They're going they might walk away to go coordinate something or go find something, but they're coming back.
Yeah, they're coming back.
You're not getting away from them. If they want, if it's kind of expected that if you're doing a rehearsal and you finish the rehearsal, say, and the event's not for another 3 hours, they're going to tell you hey, so I know you're going to go eat or something, but could you come back here so we can run through this couple of
let's
things?
Just make sure.
Yeah, and you're just why? Guys, I guarantee you, I'm the person that set all this up. I guarantee you this will be fine. But then again, you can't always do that because
you can't predict what will change.
And you never want to be that person that that guarantees something. You guarantee that this is gonna work. It's gonna work the right way, and then it doesn't work every time. Mm-hmm. It can happen. It can happen. You like I said, you don't get too down on yourself. You can always do it again. If it has to get done again, that's how professionals do it. Especially in film, they don't set up a whole set and get $100,000 or whatever, to pay for a couple weeks to film. Just so they could do it one time. They're gonna do it as many times as it takes.
as many times as it takes.
Yeah, but for this, when you're doing it live, you can only keep doing it. Because if you mess it up live, obviously you really fucking it up. Somebody's gonna probably say something, but
it gets intense real fast.
Yeah, but that's where you get real good at adjusting and refiguring out I didn't do the switch. You
throwing
go
whatever
in real
you
quick.
need to switch.
And you that's also goes in with troubleshooting. You'll just troubleshoot it at the drop of a hat. And that would happen to me every day.
AV Tech, everybody.
Yeah, what a conversation!
If you're interested in the industry, if you're interested in AV Tech, and if you're just interested in Julian's wonderful stories.
Thank you.
And the George Bush. More George Bush stories in the industry podcast. Let's go to the ranch.
I'm so glad Joe Rogan lives here now.
Joe Rogan's going to have a place called the Ranch too. I think he's trying to steal Bush's thunder.
Yeah, I think I might invite him to Bohemian Grove. What is it called? Bohemian Grove this year.
Bohemian Grove.
I haven't been there since early 2000. And now that's starting to sound like Clinton or something.
All the presidents fade into it. All Can you imagine Trump just listen, I'm the greatest.
I am the great. Okay, I was trying to do his I am the greatest, but with the old thing.
The Clinton combination. Listen, the election was rigged. And I like painting the Twitter logo now.
I did not go to those islands. Oh wait, that was Bill. My bad.
That was Bill.
He probably went there too.
Yeah, I think it was Trump's plane that went to the island or something like that, right?
We all went with Trump.
It's mind blowing. It's a little mind blowing when you put it in perspective, but that's the cool thing about AV is impartial. Like if there was an event on Epstein's Island, they would need a Sennheiser 57 and like a shitty mixer.
Yeah, they would.
And an operator. And an operator would be there and
they'd have
show
to
up
sign
and
an
set up.
NDA,
And
just like the people
Yeah.
at Bohemian Grove who work there.
yeah. I remember like this is a great story and I'll retell this on another episode, but Trump came to my small town where I'm from.
Wow.
And the same company, it's the same company did everything because there was
Yeah.
like 2 venues max
Yeah, so
that
it's
really
like
was
one
having
conference
consistent
center.
events. Yeah. So like the main like auditorium event center had Trump, and then across town was like the DAFL, the
Yeah.
Democratic thing.
Yeah,
They were having
yeah.
a thing. So it's the same company that set up the mics for both things.
Yeah.
I got to
That's
show
how
you
it
a video
goes.
of it if it's still online, because when Trump first started talking, there was just this huge like feedback, just ring, 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 ring. And of course all the news feeds picked it up, and that
Yeah.
was in every news feed. It was such a great
Jeez.
troll.
Imagine being the
But it's
the tech
impartial.
who did that, like the tech who set up the
I know the
audio
guy.
and does the
Yeah, I
streaming,
know the guy who
like,
did it. Yeah,
the stress levels, dude. That's permanent.
yeah,
Like,
it's permanent.
that's like
But it was such a
that's
fuck
like
you to
viral
Trump,
shit.
because it like the city's kind of a liberal bastion in,
Yeah.
in the middle of minor country up there.
Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We're gonna fuck up your audio because fuck you.
Who did that?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Who did that? But it was cool because it was 2 managers of this company, and one manager was working in one location, the other manager was working the other location. And when it comes down to AV guys, we're not necessarily we are hardcore impartial for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
It's set up the mic. I don't care what your political leanings
things.
are the levels right?
Exactly. And especially like with me going from here to Texas to all the way in like California.
Yeah.
Like, that would be one thing that especially because when I went to California, I was a supervisor at that location at the Sheraton. And so it was only me and a director. So there was no other staff until we got one guy. And so most of the time we'd have people come in from other properties.
Cool.
And they would have to they wouldn't know where anything was. I'd be pretty much telling them what's up.
Right.
But like you kind of have to be that like head honcho and tell them all what's going on.
Well, you have to answer all the questions too. And
Yeah, exactly. And
they're like interviewing you about where the shit is.
yeah.
What is this mic adapter? I've been the
Yeah.
guy asking the questions, so I know
Yeah.
how annoying I feel when I'm talking, because they're like working on something and I'm like, hey, like I really need to ask you this question and know where
Yeah.
this is. And they're like, it's over there.
Yeah. They're like, just find it real quick, man.
Yeah, just find it.
And you're like, oh, dude, I've never been here. I don't even know the codes for the doors, the closets. Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, and it always I won't like blanket statement, but yeah, it's for the most part, if you're leading a tech operation like that, it is you who learns everything
Oh yeah.
because you're there working the longest.
And you might not be able to like hone in and like be the master at it all, but
Yeah.
like you can really definitely like get to a level where you can set it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was like kind of what I would say I'm famous for. Like, I know I could like walk into a big ballroom, and if somebody told me like the event that they wanted to do, I could
Yeah.
pretty much figure out how to set it up, or like tell them what equipment they need and all that. But then like I could also just do something real small,
Right.
and like this. Even though
That's it. That's
we're
what
gonna
we
get
do.
bigger. We're gonna get bigger. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We're here with the famous Julian. My name is Corey,
Hey.
and we're here at Paradox Productions Industry
Paradox
Podcast,
Productions.
episode 1, possibly future episodes.
Pilot test. I think it
Pilot.
went well.
The great pilot test.
Episode. Yeah.
The great pilot episode. That's what we'll call it.
I was a little nervous.
The rehearsal podcast.
Yeah. See, because it's all about format.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.